Hello, my name is Cindy Cisneros, and this is my presentation on legal aspects in kinesiology. So as far as my facility background goes, my backstory is a little bit different than others. So my plan A is originally to acquire a sports training facility. That's actually one of my biggest dreams, is to have my very own sports specific training gym and have all kinds of different sports, make it all inclusive, have different classes offered, just different opportunities for people to find their best way of staying in shape or keeping healthy. However, in order to acquire a sports training facility, I know that there are some financial backings that need to be had there. So I actually want to go into teaching. And to be exact, I'd like to be a high school PE teacher. So even though a sports training facility would be my ultimate goal, I still would enjoy teaching at the sports training facility, which in turn I would want to be teaching the same thing that I would during physical education in high school. I think high school is a good target simply because this is where children are developing into their adult life. So this is really where they start acquiring all of their habits that they're going to maintain throughout their adult life, or so we hope and think so. And in the most part, most of them do. However, I think that high school is a good level to really impact students and to really teach them about how beneficial being overall healthy really is to them, whether it's physically, mentally, or emotionally. So that's really the biggest reason why I would like to be a high school teacher. Now, as far as risk management goes, so the top three that would really go down in my book would be Title IX, the 14th Amendment, and the tort law liability insurance. Now, Title IX is very popular. Everyone pretty much knows it as the law that tries to keep the balance between male and female sports and making sure that female are offered the same opportunities that males are during sports. However, Title IX does also protect from sexual harassment. Now, that's the case is the case here on David versus Monroe. Unfortunately, this is a case about a mother who went to court for her daughter because unfortunately her daughter was sexually harassed by another student. So luckily, Title IX does protect and cover those who are sexually harassed, whether it be from a student or others. The 14th Amendment, this one stood out to me simply because the 14th Amendment does state that no state shall deny any equal protection of laws to anyone. So basically this meaning that everyone is entitled to the law of protection. And within this case here on Merrill versus Belaski, this is about a case in which a girl in high school stumbled across the wrong person, another girl who had a bad temperament. And unfortunately, the first girl who felt a little threatened was looking for some sort of authority to let them know that she felt threatened. And unfortunately, no one was around, and that girl did end up getting physically assaulted. So this is the case where the parents had a lawsuit against the Belaski educational system. Now, the tort law liability insurance, this is actually an insurance that protects both ways. So this insurance basically covers expenses from any lawsuit. In other words, it helps cover accidents. So accidents will always and forever happen. Unfortunately, that's why they are accidents. However, some educational institutes require for their students or student athletes to have this type of insurance in case something ever does happen to them. They understand that both the school and the athlete is protected. So the school is not necessarily liable for any accident that may happen to the student while in play or not in play, simply on campus, or whatever the case may be. So this is more of a protection law. Now, as far as employment laws goes, now these three that I found were freedom of religion, contract clause, and equal protection clause of the 14th Amendment. Now, the first one that stands out the most to me is freedom of religion, seeing as how we are studying in the institute that we are. We definitely pride ourselves in our beliefs. So this freedom of religion law basically states that religion cannot be taught in a public school setting. Since I do plan on teaching within the public school system, I do understand that this is not a place in which I could express my religion. However, it works both ways. So basically, nobody is really able to express their religion openly in a public school setting. However, there are those institutes, much like ours, that are already established and are able to express themselves religiously. Contract clause, it basically protects from any suspicion or any party acting out of contract. Now, for example, if there is a contract already laid out, it's signed on both parties. If one party decides to step out of that contract, this law here protects you and basically assures that each party does abide by what is written in the contract. This is more of a universal type of law, type of employment law. This law can be had anywhere. It doesn't have to be just in a schooling system, much like all of them. Now, the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, this clause basically protects from being hired or fired based on race, religion, or sex. This one as well is very universal. It is had in all kinds of businesses and pretty much anywhere that you could think of. This amendment would be there. However, this is another one that stands out to me simply because I am planning on working within the public school system. It's just reassuring to know that there are laws as such. Faith integration. So with this portion of the assignment, I actually took a lot of time, and I actually really sat down and really did my best to relate exactly how my faith is integrated or could be integrated into what I am doing. Now, these three verses are the ones that stood out to me the most. The first one being Timothy 3:16. All scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness. Now, I do understand that this verse could potentially be very self-explanatory. However, to me, what this verse is saying is that yes, scripture is always good to teach by, it's always good to use, but it's how you use the scripture. It's how you use these verses, these books in the Bible. It's how you're interpreting them to others. And that's why that verse stands out to me. The next one, Psalm 32:8. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. Excuse me. Now, this verse here, it stood out to me very much simply because as a teacher, you are always going to instruct students. You are always going to guide them for what they should be doing, whether it be a simple assignment or whether it be a big project. Now, what really caught my eye about this verse is how it says that I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. Now, I understand that, translation may be a little bit different, but my translation of this is, yes, I do understand that God will always have his loving eye on me. However, I translate this as me wanting to have my loving eye on my students. By that I mean that, yes, I will always be there to teach and I will always be there to instruct, but I definitely want my students to know and feel that my love is coming to them. I do extend my love to them in what I do, and by that I mean I want to teach them to learn how to be better versions of themselves, whether it be physically, mentally, or emotionally. The last verse was Proverbs 22:6. It says, start children off on the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not turn from it. Now, this one here, it's a little bit more simple for me. I I dissect it a little bit more in simpler terms. By that I mean that basically how I plan to teach my students about how they can maintain a healthier lifestyle, how they can learn to be healthier in their future. This verse kind of helps me to reassure that when they are older, they are still going to want to keep those habits that I do teach them. They are still going to want to be interested in making sure that they maintain themselves physically healthy. But this verse also reminds me that as a physical education teacher, you know, all of my students aren't always going to want to be there. Not every student is going to be excited to want to run a mile, but it is up to me to make sure that I do interest them, to make sure that I do teach them things that they learn that are beneficial to them, to teach them fun and exciting ways to be able to implement this in their life, and not just then and there when they have my class, but for actually the rest of their life, and create healthier habits not only for them but for their families, and so on and so forth. And that is my project. Thank you so much.